Mafia Definitive Edition is not perfect. Despite what you may believe, the game has some serious flaws. But amongst those flaws is a game and a remake that proved a lot of naysayers wrong. From fantastic voice acting, an impressive visual and gameplay overhaul of the 2002 original, and a story that, although as we will get into has some issues, still stands the test of time. It's remarkable what they pulled off, even more remarkable knowing the pressure they were under while creating it. Following the underwhelming reception to Mafia 3, all eyes were on Hangar 13's development team as they had the weight of proving that the Mafia franchise was truly in the right hands on their shoulders. So now, a full 5 years since its release and with Mafia Old Country just around the corner, I decided to replay the entire game and see how it holds up. So in this investigation, we will be looking at the highs of Mafia Definitive Edition, the lows of Mafia Definitive Edition, and finally answer the ultimate question: is the Mafia franchise truly in the right hands? This is Mafia Definitive Edition 5 years later. The first Mafia game released all the way back in 2002. Developed by Illusion Softworks, it was an open-world action-adventure set in the 1930s. At the time, it was praised for its graphics, highly realistic world, and fantastic story. The game followed protagonist Tommy Angelo, a cabbie drawn into the Salieri crime family during the Prohibition, but despite all that acclaim, the game has unfortunately aged very poorly. Its controls, especially for the shooting and driving, are severely outdated, and to be fair, it hasn't aged all that well on a visual front either. But for a 2002 release, this is all to be expected. So when Hangar 13 announced that they would in fact be doing a from-the-ground-up remake of the 2002 classic, fans were simultaneously delighted and justifiably worried. You see, Hangar 13 were now responsible for the Mafia franchise, and their previous release, Mafia 3, was unfortunately the victim of tons of criticism for its repetitive gameplay and significant performance problems, including bugs, dumb AI, and outdated graphics. Something we will revisit in greater detail when we finally reach the Mafia 3 investigation. But to summarize, these issues led many fans and critics to doubt whether Hangar 13 could deliver a high-quality remake that truly captured the original game's essence. Concerns centered on whether the team could fix the original gameplay flaws, maintain the story's integrity, and avoid repeating the mistakes that plagued Mafia 3. Especially given the studio's tighter development schedule for the remake and the COVID pandemic affecting the final stages of production. The remake's first trailer finally dropped on the 13th of June 2020, and to be honest, I was absolutely blown away. Hangar 13 clearly undertook a meticulous process to remake the original Mafia game. The team, which included many veterans from the 2002 original as well as those who worked on Mafia 2 and Mafia 3, aimed to faithfully recreate the classic while leveraging modern technology to improve all aspects of the game. This reveal all but confirmed that Hangar 13 perhaps knew what they were doing, because it looked phenomenal. The developers built the remake on their own engine, and they started by rebuilding the entire city of Lost Heaven from scratch, redesigning it to enhance its visual detail and variety. It's a real highlight of the game, and it totally transports you to that time period, but its setting is unfortunately also something that is underutilized in the grand scheme of the actual moment-to-moment gameplay, which we will get into. Since narrative is a core element of the franchise, Hangar 13 also used state-of-the-art motion capture technology to redo all the cinematics and even added in new scenes and dialogue to develop some of the characters even further. Sarah Angelo, for example, Tommy's wife, got a huge upgrade in this regard, expanding her importance in the story by leveraging the fact that Tommy is at its core a family man with a good heart. And Sarah's additional scenes really helped emphasize the point that Tommy was truly struggling between his loyalty to his real family and his crime family. Overall, this process involved a blend of preservation of the original story and characters, combined with extensive modernization of visuals, gameplay, and cinematic presentation to create a faithful yet contemporary remake. But the proof, well, it's in the pudding. I replayed the entire game, and well, let's just say I have some thoughts as to how it holds up 5 years later. So let's get into the highs of Mafia Definitive Edition, starting with arguably the best part: the story. The narrative follows Tommy Angelo, a humble cab driver who unexpectedly becomes involved with the Salieri crime family after a fateful encounter where he is forced to help two gang members from the family escape a chase.
Get up, Polly! There's a taxi here! We'll be okay! Move it! Come on!
Where to?
Anywhere. Fast!
It is such an effective and sleek opening to the story that you can't help but empathize with Tommy's situation. He has heard rumors about the Don and the inner workings of the crime family, but it's never been this close to home. He feared for his life, so he cooperated, not fully realizing that this was the beginning of a long and brutally punishing journey whereby he would be indebted to the Don till the day he dies, be betrayed by friends he holds dear, and kill people he never wished to kill. The story is also told in reverse as Tommy relays the information to a cop in a diner, and the missions merely act as flashbacks to a time period before he decided to double-cross the Don. It sets up multiple fascinating questions like why is he betraying the Don? Why is he fearing for his family's lives, and how did things get so twisted that he's literally willing to go to jail just to put the Don behind bars? Especially because in the early hours of the game, Don Salieri is almost set up to come across as the good Don when compared to Don Morello of the rival gang. Morello is a killer with his pockets so full of everybody's secrets that he can legitimately kill someone in broad daylight merely for nicking his car and get away with it. Don Salieri, on the other hand, is wise, even kind, and as Tommy gets introduced into the family, it becomes clear that he seemingly only cares about one thing: loyalty.
First, no cursing on the premises. There's a million words out there. And the man who needs to resort to fuck this and fuck that is just ignorant or lazy. Second, we don't deal in the hard stuff. I don't want any dope fiends in this neighborhood. We'll let Morella poison his own people if that's what he wants.
Tommy respects the Don at this point, but as the narrative progresses, the Don progressively forces Tommy to do things his own moral compass really struggles to come to grips with. It all starts off light: collect money from some unwilling participants. I mean, sure, they're poor and struggling, but they owe the Don money. It's not pretty work, but at least you're not killing anyone.
Where's the money?
Then, as it always does, it escalates. Rig a race by tampering with one of the race cars to favor the Don's driver. All still very much routine and to be expected when working with a criminal mob boss. Tommy as a character didn't mind roughing up a few guys or doing a few slightly morally grey things for the Don as long as no one got killed. Then when Sarah, the Don's goddaughter, enters the story, Tommy falls in love and it brings him right back down to earth. Harassed on her way back home by some of Morello's goons, the Don demands retribution, and Tommy is all in for it. You aren't killing anyone, just simply sending a message, but things quickly get out of hand, all culminating in the moment that I personally feel Tommy for the first time knew he was in too deep. But there was unfortunately no turning back.
Wait. Please, I don't want to fucking die, man.
Christ, Tom. You can't feel sorry for these animals. A guy like this would plug you if you give him the chance. You gotta pull the trigger without thinking.
Tommy at his core isn't a killer. His compassion is showed in the multiple times he opts to save innocents caught in the crossfire of the gang war taking place in the city. Or one of the more crucial moments in the story where he decides to spare Frank, the Don's oldest friend, after he betrays the Don by informing to the FBI. The main difference between Tommy and the Don is the Don wants loyalty above all else and refuses betrayal despite there being valid reasons. Tommy, on the other hand, values loyalty but has a heart to understand betrayal. By the time you reach chapter 19, the gang war has been ravaging throughout the city for a couple of chapters, and it all culminates in Tommy finally killing Don Morello. It's brutal and totally earned. The gang war finally comes to an end, and Tommy hopes that things could finally go back to normal. No more unnecessary killing, no more crimes that put his life and the lives of his friends at grave risk. A crucial part of the narrative is the friendship between Sam, Paulie, and Tommy. Their shared dynamic is the emotional glue of the narrative. Paulie is the wild child, and Sam is the stoic. Tommy is the heart. They are as close as brothers and always have each other's backs. I especially love Paulie, who is such a wonderfully complex character that seems one-dimensional when you meet him, but as soon as you get to know him, you see that underneath all that bravado is just a man that, much like Tommy, got in too deep without a way to dig himself out. So when Paulie suggests that he wants out of this life, Tommy and Sam are a bit apprehensive to listen to this. That is of course till the night, on what seems like a routine job, they discover that the Don has actually been lying to them.
What the hell?
Christ. It's dope. You sure?
Yeah, I'm sure.
We put our fucking necks out on the line for this shit.
Looks like it.
The Don is officially dealing in hard drugs and lying about it, something he promised never to do. But money talks, and Tommy realizes that the Don values money above their lives, above all else. So Tommy and Paulie decide to chase one final big score together by robbing a bank that could set them up for life. Sam, on the other hand, isn't sold on the idea, but promises not to inform the Don. As he says, he owes them that much. By now, the themes of the story have become clear: corruption, morality, loyalty, and ultimately betrayal. This heist was never going to go to plan, and when you lie to the Don, there are always repercussions. Tommy and Paulie successfully rob the bank, but a day later, in a brutal twist, Paulie is found dead in his apartment, just one day shy from forever breaking free from this horrible life, and betrayed by none other than one of his closest friends, Sam. Sam valued the approval of the Don more than he valued his own brothers, so he killed Paulie. And this was the final straw for Tommy, the moment where he finally cracked, and in a heartbreaking confrontation with Sam, it all comes crumbling down.
We sure had some laughs, right? Remember that time? Me, you, and Paulie.
The bullet finally being shot at the exact moment Sam tries to appeal to Tommy's kind heart and manipulate his emotions, just further emphasizes the fact that Tommy is done with this life. He is done with the Don, done with his lies, and done fearing for the lives of the people he holds dear. In exchange for testifying against the Salieri family, Tommy seeks witness protection, aiming to ensure the safety of his wife, Sarah, and their daughter. Tommy finally steps away from this life of crime, only for his past actions to catch up with him years later, leading to his assassination at an old age by Vito and Joe from Mafia 2, neatly tying together the broader saga and ultimately highlighting the inescapable nature of being a part of this crime family. This story, man, it is so good. It is arguably one of the best Mafia stories ever told and has some of the greatest characters I think ever written. The remake just takes it to a whole other level with its visual fidelity, really emphasizing the emotions these characters are feeling and the words that are left unsaid. It's a nuanced look at the cost of being a criminal, and by the end of the game, you are left feeling really empty, stuck wondering if any of the trauma that Tommy, Paulie, and even Sam went through was ever worth it when all the money they ever made somehow always ends up covered in blood. 5 years later, this story doesn't just hold up on a narrative front and moved me to tears again by the end, but it cemented itself as one of my favorite game narratives of all time. It really helps then when the story is supported by two of my favorite things: a great location and fantastic music. The setting, music, and vintage cars. Visually, this game looks fantastic, recreating the gritty, atmospheric world of 1930s Lost Heaven, coupled with a dramatic soundtrack featuring period-appropriate music. It is genuinely a joy just to be in this world that Hangar 13 so meticulously created. Even as soon as the main menu screen, you are transported to this film noir-esque vibe, and from the moment the game starts, Hangar 13 really take their time to introduce you to this world, flying over the beautiful city and showcasing Lost Heaven in all its glory. It's classy and timeless. It's a shame then that almost nothing happens in the world outside the main missions. It's just a setting that serves as a backdrop for the narrative and nothing more. Now personally, I understand why they decided to do this, as they wanted the main focus to be on the narrative, and for the most part I do prefer this to the route that they took with Mafia 3. Perhaps just including a few more side missions or a few more interactable environments to explore as Tommy, because as it stands now, there really isn't anything to do outside the main story, which is a shame when it looks this bloody good. I really do appreciate the missions that take their time to flesh out the world of Lost Heaven though. Like in chapter 2, where you spend a day as a cabbie driver, picking up various residents of Lost Heaven, all with different stories and places to be. It's little things like this that make the world of Lost Heaven feel real.
Oh boy, you look like shit.
I've been working since 5. What's your excuse?
Lose.
Figures. Where are we going?
I love that the game is in no rush to get you into the action, instead almost forcing you to settle back and really immerse yourself in the golden age of the 1930s. All the vintage cars also feel really great to handle, once you get the hang of them. They feel weighty and rickety but with enough give to make you feel in total control. The race in Chapter 6 being an absolute highlight and showcase of what Hangar 13 are capable of doing when not held back by technology. Chases from police feel really tense, especially because the police AI are very intelligent and punishing of simple mistakes. I, for example, saw a gap here and the police vehicle just simply reversed into me, completely ending my chances of escaping. Where the game shines its brightest are in the moments where the world, the story, the gameplay and the music all come together to create these really tense and gripping sequences that I'll remember for quite some time. Trying to escape the police after assassinating a politician, robbing a bank, or chasing Morello's slowly crashing plane through the sky and streets of Lost Heaven. It's often butt-clenchingly tense and you feel all the more immersed because you truly care about these characters and their survival. The story, the visuals, the vehicles and music in these sequences often do a lot of heavy lifting, especially because the gunplay, well, maybe that's a good way to start the lows section of this video. The gameplay. Guns don't feel great. That is the long and the short of it. It's not terrible, it's serviceable at best, and for the runtime of I think about 10 to 12 hours, it does the job. But I can't deny that I am very disappointed by this, and this problem has only gotten worse with age. It's a narrative game first, sure, but the gameplay needs to match. Had they taken the time to really make this third-person shooting feel better, perhaps the praises for this game would have been way louder. I mean, combat in general is really disappointing. Hand-to-hand just boils down to quick-time events that repeat the same animation time and time again, and the restrictive nature of Tommy's movement really doesn't do the game any favors in terms of longevity. I understand being a slower paced game, but the fact that in certain sequences you can't run, you can't even jog, often forced to walk painfully slowly in buildings or even outside when there are no discernible reasons for the lack of player freedom and agency. It also gets taken way too far when the game is so restrictive with your movement that you are simply punished for just exploring a bit. It almost snaps you back to reality when this ugly return to your objective sign pops up, completely unimmersing you from the moment and reminding you that you need to get back to playing the game exactly how they intended you to play it. Now, I don't mind a game being linear, but being restrictive is something that always irritates me. Now, the following thing is a minor gripe, but replaying the game it also became painfully obvious that every mission played out in almost exactly the same way, just progressively more difficult. The narrative would unfold in a cinematic and something would then happen or go wrong, and a shootout or fistfight would ensue. It becomes almost painfully predictable to the point where it becomes boring. Mission variety in these types of linear experiences is really important to keep things fresh, and sure, some of the bigger moments in the game that happen are quite unique and fun to witness, but the things you're actually doing in terms of gameplay, it just boils down to shooting a bunch of bad guys. And perhaps that would have been more tolerable had the gunplay been more engaging. There's also a bit of ludo-narrative dissonance happening here, and for those that don't know what that means, and without me sounding too pretentious, ludo-narrative dissonance is the conflict between a video game's narrative told through the non-interactive elements and the narrative told through the gameplay. Tommy is sketched as a character that really struggles to kill innocents, but has no problem killing literal thousands throughout the runtime of the game during gameplay. Which again, it really isn't a con, but it is just an interesting little quirk I started noticing as I gunned down another cop for smiling at me wrong. Now, despite these gameplay flaws, Mafia Definitive Edition delivers one of the most compelling and emotionally impactful stories in gaming history. Its narrative of loyalty, betrayal, and the harsh realities of life in organized crime feels authentic and powerful, and for me, it resonated long after I rolled credits. The characters are all richly developed, each with their own motives and struggles, making their stories truly memorable. It's more than just a classic gangster story, it's a nuanced exploration of human nature, morality, and the cost of the choices we choose to make. The game's ability to blend intense action with quiet, heartfelt moments create a cinematic experience that it's honestly hard to beat. It's one of the best linear games out there, honestly. But whether or not Mafia is in the right hands with Hangar 13, only time and actually playing Mafia the Old Country will really tell. But I do think they finally get it. Playing this game, it's clear they finally understand the heartbeat of Mafia. And I, for one, can't wait to get to Mafia 4. But for now, on to the next investigation. Mafia 2. If you enjoyed this video, consider leaving a like as it really does help me, and subscribe if you'd enjoy a channel that simply put, investigates games. And I'll see you in the next one.